Woohoo, another week. And I think all the listeners, I don't think you'll ever get sick of us saying we are super excited, but this one we really are, because coming up is not only like a very special friend, but a person who's sort of actually breaking all records. So we've got something extra
Very
special
exciting.
for you. But hey,
What a weekend.
I know. But how was the weekend for you?
It was your birthday
Woohoo.
weekend. Well, we're going to, we've got another dinner for your birthday, but it was funny because on the weekend, guys, there was something on locally, and I said, oh, no, look, I really don't feel like a drink. And, we're celebrating Nicola's birthday next week. Oh, no. Famous last words. I go with Nicola, like drinking because it was Veuve Clicquot on tap, and I was like, oh, here I go again. I had
fun.
to walk home.
We did.
All in honor of you, but it was just a celebration of this beautiful woman.
Oh, well, thank you. You know what, with birthdays, I always sort of feel so lucky that they say another year around the sun, and grateful to be here.
I love being in your orbit, baby.
Oh, well, you know what, I'm loving it. And, I've always been sort of with different ages, and I've got to say I'm 62 now, and I am proud to say I'm 62. I'm really loving it. I think when you turn 60, maybe like anyone, if you're turning 30 or turning 40, it's that new decade and that new, but we're 60, it's like, okay, right, yep, lucky to be here, and then 61, 62 now, I feel like I'm getting in my stride and absolutely loving it.
No, I'm mid-60s and probably living my best life.
Yeah. So
having my children was probably the pinnacle of my life, but right now, the energy I have because of my attitude astounds me.
Well, life
astounds me.
Life is chapters, and it certainly is. And, it's also grateful of friendship and connection. And so we've actually got an event. Tickets are really they're going so quickly. May 29th.
I'm so excited. It's ridiculous.
Backfence Disco, but we're having an event. And Di and I, we just like, with sharing our friends and sharing connections. So come solo, bring some friends. It's at Positive Energy in Balgowlah. Such a beautiful venue.
You know what? I was thinking driving in this morning about the event because I really, when I look forward to something, I'm like a child. I get so excited. I was driving in and I was thinking, since the beginning of time, man on earth, they've danced around a fire, and the joy, the connection, the happiness. It's something that's innate in us as human beings to dance. And even if you're shy, well, guess what? I'll be there. I'll rev you up. You can dance with me. Look, it's the 29th of May. Quite a few tickets have sold at the moment. But look, it's in Balgowlah, which is sort of a midway point, Northern Beaches City. Come along, have some fun. We'll be talking about it.
Come from interstate. It's a good chance. It's always good fun.
And
Sam, our producer, is going to be there.
There's a link on our...
There's a link, just come to our Instagram there. There's a link there, and we'll put another link up. So, because the tickets are selling really quickly, which is good. But the other thing too, we sort of share is such a passion for travel. And, so this week I actually did a little stint again on Sunrise talking about travel and bunk beds. But I actually feel a little bit of a fraud when people say, oh, Nicola, you're a bit of a travel expert. Well, actually, no, not in comparison to who we've got next.
That's true.
So who have we got? I'm going to leave Di to give the intro.
Even if someone says to me, oh, I can't afford to travel, or I don't have the time for travel, or work gets in the way, and you hear all the negatives, I flip it around and go, if you have the desire, if you have the passion, you can. Just believe it and it will happen. And you can go camping, you can go caravanning, you can, it's just a change of the mindset, and it's that simple. So without further ado,
who have we got?
Well, someone that Nicola's known for a long time, someone I was very, very happy to meet at a retreat we were at in Phuket. Would love to welcome Barry Hoffner to Over the Back Fence, who happens to be, what's that, darling?
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
God, I love that word. That's our word. And in fact, I'm trying to get through this intro and I'm like, let's get into it. Look, just to let everyone know about Barry, he's actually an author of now Amazon's #1 adventure travel book. Congratulations. By the way, Barry. Well done. The book's called Belonging to the World, and that really feeds my soul. Barry Hoffner's wife, Jackie, was in a tragic accident involving an elephant while volunteering in Africa with Wild Aid. After his beloved Jackie passed away, he had to remain strong for his two sons, yet, along with his own healing journey, he discovered so much about life, kindness, connection, and how it has opened his eyes to a new world, literally. Barry shares magnificent stories about visiting 193 countries. That's a big call, Barry. Always with Jackie's spirit around him. Barry talks about how burying grief can mute the possibility of feeling joy again. I love that line. Your book, Belonging to the World, is surprisingly uplifting and will help to soothe those of us grieving for a loved one, which we'll all at some stage experience at some stage in life. So honestly, I think as closure came with you, Barry, with it came a new beginning. So let's unpack this truly remarkable story. Welcome, Barry!
Yay! Welcome, Barry,
to
from
Over the
San
Back Fence.
Francisco, where you are now, I believe, to our back fence here in Down Under.
Yay!
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in Sausalito right now. You know that place really well.
I do.
Nicola. And,
Again.
honestly, I've done a number of podcasts. This is the first one I've done with friends, so this is really special.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to brag a bit more too, because we kind of like that, because we know you're so humble. But, this is actually an Australian exclusive, getting Barry on, and congratulations. Every country in the world, I think there's North Korea is just about to happen again at some stage.
Really?
I know Bella the cat stopped it at one stage.
Yeah.
But that's huge. And with your book, it's just really to get number
Beautiful.
one Amazon. It's also you've been in People magazine, Maria Shriver. It's kind of blowing up everywhere, and I can see why, because it's from the heart. And listeners, Barry and I are good friends, and I had the honour of listening to the book a while ago, but I got to say I was so emotional because I reread it 2 nights ago, and it's so beautiful. But welcome, Barry, and can you just share a little bit about Belonging to the World, where you'd like to start, a bit about you, maybe the early days?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me start with my first. It's so cool to be on with virtually in the Oz. Let me start with that story if I can. So I came from a middle-class background in Southern California, and travel wasn't really a big part of who I was, even though my mom was from Baghdad, Iraq, and my dad's lineage was from Eastern Europe. But we were just a very sort of middle-class family. When I was 18, graduating from college, high school, I had a flip of the coin a decision to go on a trip to Europe with a good friend of mine from high school. I wanted to go to Hawaii to surf. He wanted to go to Europe. We flipped a coin. He won. That changed my life.
Wow.
So the next year, I was only 19 years old. I was living in the San Fernando Valley with my best friend, and Neil, and my sister and her friend. And we were going to take a little trip towards the end of the summer. The idea was just to go someplace local. But we were in downtown Los Angeles. We saw a bunch of people standing in line. And we jumped in line and we asked, what's this line for? And they said, well, Qantas just opened up a route directly from Sydney to LA, and the first 200 people are going to get tickets for $99 round trip. So we're like, wow, let's do that. And so we stayed in line for, I think it was like 24 hours because the tickets went on sale the next day. And 3 weeks later, we found
Isn't that cool? That's dedication.
3 weeks later, we found ourselves in the Oz. So, and we had a great trip, 3 weeks. We went to Cairns and Surfer's Paradise in Sydney. And anyways, that was a start of a very dear relationship with your beautiful country.
And the other thing is you took a gap year and you went to the Western Wall. Tell us about the note you wrote.
Yeah, so that was just a couple. So that first trip to Europe really was just like the big bang going off inside my head. It was like all these different languages and cultures, and even in those days, currencies. And I just like felt my mind exploding, but like in a really positive way. And that was a defining period of my life. It's just like, this is something that I have to orient my life towards seeing the world. And without like declaring it, I knew that was the case at the age of 18. And so when I graduated from college, I deferred admission to business school for a year. I decided to do some traveling, and I wanted to go visit, my family's homeland, Israel, and see some relatives and do some other travel. I think I went to Turkey and a few other places, Egypt. And so I took this trip to Jerusalem to visit the Western Wall, a very important site for most Jews around the world. And they have all these big stones. It's the ancient part of the ancient old temple, I think from like 2,000, 3,000 years ago or something like that, that people stuff these little pieces of paper that they write down a wish in into these cracks. And so I went to the wall. I wrote down something on this piece of paper, stood on my tippy toes to put it way up high in the cracks. And that piece of paper said, I want to see the world.
Oh, we talk about manifesting all the time, Barry,
we do
on the potty. If that's not manifesting, I'm sorry. And then feng shui about having relationships above you, pictures above your bed, all these sort of things.
And serendipity, as well.
So
the whole thing is
hearing you
it's
say
beautiful. I know. Keep on going, Barry.
Yeah,
we're all ears.
So that took you.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then I'll continue. But sometimes I say, like, the best things in life happen to you by chance if you're just really open to it. And sometimes, like, it's really good to have a plan in life. It's really good to have a plan. It keeps me grounded, but it's the key to being flexible about what appears in front of you and then grabbing things that really touch you that I think define your life. And so that certainly happened for me. And like, as I look back, I gave this talk to this travel community a few years ago in Bangkok, and my opening line was, think about the best things that ever happened in your life. And did those happen by chance or were they planned? So when I look back at my life now, and Nicola, you were talking about your birthday and everything, and we share
Happy birthday to you, Barry.
I'm a good bit older than you, but it's a time to look back in your life and like look at the journey you've been on. And writing a book intensifies that for sure. But when I look back on my life and I look at all the best things that have happened to me, every single one's happened by chance.
Incredible. Because I was just going to say too, just for our listeners as well, to give like a little backstory. So you've had that passion with travel, and you also brought that in. You're an investment banker. Tell us about that. Your early days, and then where you lived through that. Life is chapters. And you've certainly had many different ones. Tell us about that, and then also where you met. Where we all connected. Yes. Zora, who's been on our podcast, a very good friend. You met in Russia, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about those days, Barry?
Yeah, sure. So those first few trips, as I mentioned, like really defined how I wanted to live my life. And yes, I wanted to have a career in investment banking. I went to Columbia Business School in the mid 80s. I graduated, but it was choosing the right company. I happened to be lucky enough to get a job with JP Morgan, which was a very international firm, because I knew that there was a big opportunity to be able to work overseas. And I did. From 1986 until 2002, I worked overseas in 8 different countries around the world.
Those countries being? What sort of countries?
I started off, I had the plum assignment in Paris. I worked in Paris.
Paris. Where else?
Then I went to Japan. Then I went to Singapore. Yeah. Then I went to Switzerland. Then I went back to Singapore. Then I went to London. And then I went to Russia.
Aires? And Buenos Aires in there somewhere?
And I did have a stint in Buenos Aires early on. That was it. That was right at the start of my career. I forgot that one, Di. Thank you.
He was even traveling. I listened to Audible. He was even traveling with work. Do you know what I mean? Like the bug was this constant that he was, he was eating and believing this, drinking this. And through work and through play, it was travel. And you made it happen. And so many of us live and die and never do that. I really honor what you have done in your life. Truly, I do.
And tell us with some of the moments there, like in Russia, and then how you met Zora. Hacked my age. She was back on a few years ago. We'll put her like a little link to her one as well in this show notes is here. Yeah. Tell us about that, and then we do want to hear about meeting the love of your life through the travels too.
Sure. Well, it's a funny story. So my last posting was in Moscow in Russia in the late 90s. That was a very interesting time to be there. We stayed for 4 years, but it's a very international community. You connect with very quickly because, they're just there's just not a lot of foreigners there. And so I remember my late wife, Jackie, went to this sort of women's social, and Zora happened to be there, and they didn't get the memo that you were supposed to like dress really nicely. They both brought our sons, who were then only months old. And I think Zora had a big slobbering of spit or something on her blouse. And, they hadn't had sleep the night before, and they just like bonded. They just like found each other and bonded quickly. And then our families became close friends through those 4 years in Russia. And we still remain close friends today.
I love that.
So let's go. Let's take the listeners back to you meeting Jackie, your beautiful wife.
Yeah, so it goes way back. This was in college. I was undergrad at UC Irvine in the, late 70s. I was a senior. She was a freshman. She was definitely somebody that I wanted to be in my orbit, but I had a sort of a then girlfriend. So what do you do when you want to keep somebody close to you, but you have a girlfriend? You set them up with your best friend. And that's what I did. And
he's a clever man, Barry Hoffner.
And Joe still is my best friend, one of my best friends, and his wife, and we spent a lot of time together. And but that was just for a date. Jackie and I stayed in contact because after undergrad, I moved basically to New York and then overseas. But we had stayed in contact. I would visit her on trips home. We were just in the friend zone, but I definitely had a little bit of a crush on her. I think I tried to plan a little awkward kiss on her at one point in San Francisco. She had a boyfriend at that point. And then here's the funny story. So I kept saying, you got to come to New York. And I kept saying that. And then when she finally agreed, I figured that boyfriend was no longer in the picture. But it turns out he was. So she arrives in New York and says, I'm on my way in, but I just sort of have to tell you something. Well, Mark, her ex-boyfriend, he goes, well, he's kind of jealous of coming into New York. And so he got on the plane with me, but he's staying in a different hotel. So don't worry, we'll have plenty of time together. And then the next phone call was, well, actually, it looks like Mark's plans fell through. He doesn't have a place to stay. I know this is really awkward. Is there any way he could stay with you? I had like a 4-floor walk-up studio. I ended up sleeping on the floor.
You've got a crush on this woman, and she's bringing.
And that really did happen.
That is a classic.
And what about the invitation to her wedding? That would have been a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah, so we had stayed in contact. Some years later, I was working in Singapore. I got but it was like kind of contact without internet and everything, and cell phones. It was kind of like once a year. And so all of a sudden I get this invitation to her wedding, and I was like, okay, a good one really got away here. But then a year and a half later, as I was winding up a 10-year career at JP Morgan, and not winding up, but I was taking a sabbatical for about 6 months. I wanted to go to China to really see what was going on there. This was like in the mid-90s. It turns out that her marriage didn't work out, and she was passing through Singapore and with a girlfriend of hers. And so we started traveling. And the more we traveled, obviously, when you're traveling with somebody 24/7, like you expose everything,
Absolutely.
right?
I agree.
And I was just, definitely like remembering why I liked her so much. And over a period of time, we finally got to the Taj Mahal, and that was the place. And we sort of declared our love for each other within the Taj Mahal. Outside the Taj Mahal, and that was that we were together ever since.
Oh, that's so romantic. Incredible. And so beautiful. And I guess her girlfriend, was it the three of you again, or did she end up flying back?
So Vicky was only there because Jackie had gone to India to work in this biology lab. She was a biologist. And Vicky was just sort of there to accompany her for a few weeks. She was headed home anyways, but I managed to convince Jackie to ditch the biology job in India and then come with me to China, which she did. So we did travel for a little bit, let's say a month or so, but our first really like 4 months together were in a dormitory in Kunming, China, $10 a day, electricity 1 hour a day, or hot water 1 hour a day, and just a tremendous life. Like
you get on under those circumstances.
That's it.
There's something yummy here. I'm not going to jump ahead too far, but I'm going to take you to where she turns to you in Russia, I'm pregnant. And you both
Oh yeah.
go,
So that
oh,
actually happened in Sausalito here before we moved on. I was sort of after this crazy period of travel during my sabbatical. I really wasn't sure that I 100% wanted to go back to investment banking. So it's kind of like, well, let's go back to Sausalito and see what we're going to do next. And during that process, she kind of like one night appeared and said, and she's kind of like in tears and showing me this sort of test that she had just taken. Guess what? I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm pregnant. So anyways, I made some kind of dumb, flippant remark, but then kind of just said, well, it's time to get married. And then we did. And then we went back off to London and then on to Russia.
Well, and you're proud dad of two sons, Benjamin and Daniel. And so you've had this. So tell us a bit about your life together with Jackie, and then I guess, that really sad moment when your world changed.
Yeah, so we spent those 4 years, amazing 4 years in Moscow. Our boys were 3 and 4 when we left. It was quite a time for family and adventure all packed into one in a way, and moved here to Sausalito full time to get the guys in school. Jackie's dad was a Marine, so she, colonel in the Marines, so she had traveled a lot and kind of wanted a stable place for our kids. So we were in the same house we were back then. We moved here in 2002 and put the boys through school. And I had a new chapter in my life, really just like being at home and being a dad and being in the community and building a life here in Sausalito. And that led up to kind of the frontier of our empty nesting years with our boys off.
Big transition,
yeah,
empty nesting.
Big transition in life. Our boys off to college, me doing charitable work in West Africa, which we could talk a little bit more about. Jackie, passionate about the big animals in Eastern and Southern Africa. And so we had decided to take this, our first real empty nesting trip with Benjamin in Georgetown his first semester and Daniel off in Spain during a gap year Spanish program. And she went off a couple weeks early. She left from, we were in DC in Georgetown to spend some time with Benjamin. And I actually put her in a taxi right at the place that we rented in Georgetown to go off to Africa. The day after her birthday on October 2020, her birthday is October 22nd, October 23rd. This is 2017. And I followed up traveling to Oman, and then we were supposed to meet in Nairobi about 2.5 weeks later. And then arriving in Dubai, basically in an airport hotel to fly to Nairobi to meet her the next day, I learned that she had been killed by an elephant.
And do you mind me asking how that happened? She was there with Wild Aid to actually help elephants. Is that correct?
She had been in some elephant and rhino orphanages, but this was a sort of a horse safari, they call it, in the Okavango Delta in Botswana. And, elephants, particularly barren females and males during must and things like that, they can be, very, very violent at any point in time. And it was just a tragic accident. It happened very fast. And I wasn't even 100% sure of all the details, to be honest, until I went back to Botswana about a year and a half ago. That's
Barry,
the last
we're
chapter.
so deeply sorry, and
Incredible.
I have empathy for you also, having to reshare these stories again and again. I know you've written the book and the money's going to go to good charity, which we'll talk about later, but I do sort of honour that I can't imagine how you feel when we're asking you these questions that way. But can you tell about how you were notified and where you were, what was happening?
Yeah, so I was, like I mentioned, I was in, I got off the plane. I mentioned I flew from Oman to Dubai. I spent 4 or 5 days in Oman. And then I arrived in Dubai. I was getting off the plane in Dubai, and there was this like sort of funny number that had called and left a message. But, you're exiting the plane, and you can't really hear anything. So I just didn't even really bother. And I only had it like 3-4 hours until the evening to see Dubai. I'd been there 25 years earlier. So I went and did a quick tour, got back to my hotel, ready to settle in for the night. And I got a phone call from that number informing me what had happened. And it was obviously like incredible shock, but at the same time, like my mind was working overtime, having a massive responsibility to figure this out and what I'm going to do next. So I called a bunch of people in Botswana, the U.S. ambassador, the people at the horse safari, et cetera, to confirm what had happened. Because at that point, I wasn't really sure whether I should go to Botswana or to go to my kids.
Yeah.
And so quickly I decided, my kids were the priority now. And so that's what followed. And I call that my year zero. It was kind of like, and it was a weird, idea that you're absolutely in shock. On the other hand, you got to get your head together because you have some important sort of decisions to make. And at that point I knew, like, it just had this like feeling that my life from here on is going to be defined by how I handle telling my boys, like, and it was so important to me, like nothing else mattered. I just wanted to do it in the best possible. Obviously there's no good way, but that was my priority.
That's all they need. They need someone strong. Isn't it ironic that there you are enduring that pain, and yet as a parent, you have to step away from that and you've got to be strong for these children. And I've seen it in my own family. And it's a difficult sort of, it's weighing the two odds. As you said, do I go to Botswana? Do I go to the kids? Well, you go to the kids and you hug them. And how did that unfold? And like, how are the kids now?
Yeah, it's a long journey for all of us, but I couldn't be in two places at once. And Daniel was in Spain, and Benjamin was in DC. So as I recount in the book, I think it's chapter 2, I talk about having to tell Benjamin one of the most painful things I'll ever do in my life, and then flying to Spain to tell Daniel in person. So, and also knowing that I didn't want anybody else to know before my boys knew. So that was the thing, and there was already sort of some kind of report coming out of Botswana in the media about the accident, because it's not often that it happens to a tourist, but thankfully nobody really had found out. And so, yeah, I call that my year zero. It's kind of like life before this tragic accident as normal, and life after will never be the same. But as we'll talk about later, through this journey, you try to figure out how to get through it and then get to the other side. And that's, for me, what like the idea of grieving is all about. It's honoring what's been lost, but figuring out a way to get to the other side. And that's what I call my year zero.
Wow. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the beautiful parts, there's so many parts in this book.
This book belonging to the
so
world.
Yummy. But is the work that both you and Jackie did to heal others in Africa, such as, well, now I think, what is there, 11 schools that you've set up in Jackie's, as a scholarship in Africa, in Jackie's honor. But what else were you and Jackie doing in Africa? Like, it was incredible.
So Jackie focused on
your, what do you call it, the empty nesting years.
Yeah, Jackie focused on the animals, and I had been doing work building schools in Timbuktu in Mali. That's a real place.
Timbuktu of all places. Actually, can you share that like little story? Yeah. How do you get to Timbuktu, Barry? Why?
Yeah,
Mali. Yeah, exactly. Like, tell us about that and what happened.
50th birthday bucket list trip where I just had to do something different. I'd been a good dad, a good husband in the community, all those travels I mentioned before. I wasn't really doing that. When we moved home 2002, 8 years later, 2010, I was like, I got to do something crazy for my 50th birthday. And of course, having such a supportive wife, Jackie's like, go do what you need to do. So I went off to Timbuktu for a couple of weeks. I just had to go to a very different place. And from that trip, I ended up building a school in a village as a 50th birthday project. But going back and seeing it built and seeing the kids in the school, and it just touched me very deeply. So I made that sort of my thing. Started a foundation that still exists today called Caravan to Class. We built 18 schools and villages all around Timbuktu. But a few years ago, after Jackie died, we started a new project that is really our core project in her name, called Bourse Jackie, the Jackie Scholarship. And we have programs that provide scholarships to women, both to university, to study English language, and to learn to do public speaking across West Africa. That's 14 countries. In her name, we've provided scholarships to over 100 women from now 14 different countries, 3 program directors. And what I love is, so Jackie had a sunflower tattooed on her arm. It was sort of like she was always turning towards the sun. And that's the logo of our program. To see all these young women wearing these T-shirts with this big sunflower in the middle really kind of touches my heart.
That's so joyful, Barry.
Have you got a tattoo, Barry?
I actually do. That's a whole nother story. That happened during my travels.
And has it got a sunflower in it?
So I was in Dominica in the Caribbean with my younger son, Daniel, and we were doing a hike, and it just so happened this young woman was really tatted up all over. And I remember she was with her mom. I said, "I love your art." She goes, "Well, I'm a tattoo artist in Berkeley." And I said, I saw this woman with a tattoo of the world, the map of the world across her back. I said, I was thinking of getting a globe with the world with Africa in the middle and maybe a J. And she goes, people really wouldn't understand the J. Why don't you put a sunflower wrapped around the globe?
She did not.
So I do on my left shoulder. The thing is no one ever sees it because I don't walk around with my shirt off at the age of 66 much anymore. It's hard to see. But anyways, it's a beautiful tattoo.
Yeah, you're looking great. But how beautiful.
It's a beautiful tattoo. But the funny part of that story was Daniel looks at me, he goes, "Are you sure that's going to be okay with Benjamin, our older son?" And it was sort of like the role reversal. Normally the parents saying,
yes,
exactly. Like, Dad,
that's what I'm thinking.
Dad's losing the plot,
No, I just want to quickly say, just prior to coming into the studio, to this interview today, I was in Pilates, and I've been going to this Pilates class for 10 years. And she always has fresh flowers. She's Swedish. She's divine. She always has fresh flowers on the front desk. Guess what flowers she had this morning?
Sunflower.
We know.
Yeah.
Sunflowers.
And she said, "Oh, I've never put one there before." And I went, I got goosebumps from my head to my toe.
Yeah.
So she's around you all the time, no doubt. She was a very beautiful, beautiful, loving force.
Can we now go? This is all your stories. We're jumping around a bit, but it's so interesting hearing this. Can you now also, you're sort of saying with losing her and the grief, then tell us about then when you actually started to take off, like your boys then, I guess, then has to go back to university. And what did you do? How did you use travel, which was always a passion? And I got to say, Barry, how many languages are you speaking now? Because you've got a passion for languages.
I speak a few. But,
I can. I have to brag for Barry because he speaks at least 12. But and that's, I'm not kidding there. Which is a citizen,
Arabic
a global citizen. But tell us about where travel, was it an escape or was it still the
and the
adventure?
Camino Trail too?
Yeah, but tell us about with you.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So, just in the aftermath of losing Jackie, Benjamin had taken an incomplete his first semester at Georgetown. But he didn't want to go back and live in the dorm. So I actually moved from Sausalito to Georgetown for a period of 6 months and rented a house, and he lived with me. It was actually an ideal situation. Everybody grieves differently. I really didn't want to be around people, and I didn't want to be in a house full of memories. So it was just perfect. I didn't know anybody at Georgetown. It was a period I call a time that I stepped out of my life, really. And I just needed to get my head straight. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of spiritual reading, and just, a lot of alone time, to be honest. And after about 6 months of that, I said, I think it's time. I'm feeling like it's time to step back into my life. And I took this trip to Tajikistan in Central Asia, and
where?
to run it.
Tajikistan.
There's
I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to spell it.
Isn't that on your bucket list?
Yes, I was just thinking that. It's got Paris, Tajikistan. I can't say it. Milan. Yeah. Right.
It's part
That's
of
incredible.
it's part of the five stands, part of the old Soviet Union, and I had been to three of them. Jackie and I had been to Uzbekistan when we lived in Russia. I'd been to Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan. So it's sort of like I saw the headlines posted on this this travel tour company called Koryo Travels website. Be the first to run the inaugural half marathon in Dushanbe, Tajikistan, and that just screamed at me. It's like that. I got to do that. I wasn't in good shape then, so that started me running, but that also helped me sleep better. This was only, let's say 6-7 months after we lost Jackie. And I went and did that trip, and it really just coming back, just turned my head. What I say is, like, I had this ritual in the evening where I'd do this grief reading, and then I'd watch an episode of, I don't know if you have The Office out there with Steve Carell.
I love it. I love
just
it.
to have a laugh or two. So the night after the half marathon, I remember just like, I remember skipping the grief reading, and it's kind of like giving grief the night off. And that was a sign that, okay, you're doing the right thing.
The night off. That's
Stay
interesting.
on that.
Yeah, for all our
Stay
people
on that
listening who are grieving.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is, and I understand, like, I'm super fortunate to be in a position to travel. I didn't have a job to go back to. I know so many people do, but I really do believe, like, the idea of some kind of movement just changes the pathways, the neurons in your brain, and the synapses, and kind of helps put you in a better place. And I was seeing signs of that during my travels. So, when you're doing something and it works, you just keep doing it. I mean, it's very common sense. And again, being fortunate to be able to do that. So one trip travel followed another. That summer, the boys and I took a walk on the Camino in Spain.
I want to do that.
Jackie had done it.
Yes, yeah.
Jackie had done it the previous year with some of her girlfriends from Russia. And so it was kind of like a little pilgrimage, at least for me. And my boys were very accommodative in doing that. The nice story I like to tell there is, I've never seen a bigger fan of dogs than Jackie. And I know Nicola with Fred.
Hello, you took the words out of my...
Exactly. All our listeners know Fred the Copper Dog.
So let's...
Nicola's maybe number 2. But anyways. So she had found this dog, this little white dog on the Camino the year before, that she texted me a picture of that she wanted to bring home. And I was like, not the best idea. It's probably somebody's dog. But that gave me sort of a mission. I wanted to find that dog. And about halfway into the Camino, we see this little white dog with his wagging tail. And I got out the picture of Jackie petting the dog, and it was that dog.
So, are you joking? I didn't get that in the Audible. That was the dog. Oh,
wow!
Yeah,
that is unbelievable, Barry.
So I am a grounded person. I believe a lot in science and stuff like that, but these kind of things just kept happening to me, saying, keep going, right? And so that's what I did.
And then tell us, I find it really fascinating because, as our listeners know, you're a man who had a passion for travel beforehand, but then that spurred on and you weren't actually counting all the countries. Tell us the change. Was the phone call with the Spaniard from when you were seeing different countries, from sort of traveling a little bit further? You've got that spark, it turns your head, do more of it. But still, you weren't doing it with an intention of going, with the goal of going, I want to go to every country on planet Earth. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, I was just doing one trip after the next without really any big intention. It's just places that sparked my interest. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and I'm grounded. On the one hand, I'm grounded from travel. On the other hand, I was in a house, no longer empty big house, because my boys were home to study at home. So it was the first time I got to play really like Mr. Dad, like doing the cooking, the cleaning, the shopping, all that other stuff. I never realized like how much work it is to keep a house full of 3 men clean. But anyways, and then my cooking skills had a lot to offer. I had a lot to be spoken for in terms of like, I would say, what do you guys want for dinner? And I remember one night, Daniel's like, Dad, I think I'm gonna make something myself tonight. And then Benjamin says, hey, Daniel, can I have some too? So I realized then
that's funny.
Was the best cook. But anyways, it was during that time that somebody had connected me with this Spaniard who he was only in his early 30s, had been to every country in the world. And I didn't even know you could do that. In fact, I didn't even know that there were 193 UN member countries. And I felt like this like imposter syndrome, like travel had defined my life. I thought I knew a lot about travel. And here's this guy half my age who was like basically schooling me on travel. And so I had a chance phone call with him. And it really kind of sparked this thing like, okay, that's what I got to do. I got to travel to every country in the world. We hung up from that phone call.
As you do, Nicola.
And tell about, didn't you, he was applying, what was the one when you were applying to go to Uganda? I think that's just hysterical as well.
Yeah, so he started this company after losing his job during COVID because he had been to every country, and it was kind of like creating travel families to exotic destinations. And so he was telling me, because a lot of countries were closed then, it was still just coming out of COVID. We're talking September 2021. And he's like, yeah, our first country is Uganda. Why don't you come with us? But there's an application process. So you actually had to apply. You had to send a video yourself. I didn't even know how to make a video in those days. Wow. I wasn't very savvy with the iPhones. And give them a travel resume. And what I didn't realize is the whole group that showed up in Kampala in Uganda for that trip was basically like half my age. I think the next oldest person was like 30, early 30s, and I was
so young at heart. He's so young at heart.
But still, all that young energy. I was like, I'm not sure I made the right decision. But anyways, I finished that trip just absolutely loving it, and then it was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And that was starting, like I said, towards the end of 2021. And I traveled the next 3 years, pretty much full time. I was out of the country about 240 days a year. And I covered 72 new countries and over about 100 countries during that time.
It's wonderful. And what did you, you've gone to countries that we hear and, you see in the news there's wars going on and there's fear. What is it? Because what did you find there, more than just a country? What was it in your deep connection? What really got you, Barry, with a universal thread wherever you are on planet Earth? What did you find?
Yeah, I started traveling really, as we talked about, a little bit of an escape and then kind of just like searching for countries. But as I traveled more and, the first countries I went to were, I guess you could call them exotic, but certainly not dangerous. Uganda, Rwanda, Saudi Arabia. But as I started traveling more, I realized what I really was finding healing was the connection with people. It just felt like I was part of something a lot bigger. And, that's why I named the book Belonging to the World, is I felt like I lost this massive belonging, like this person that made our family run. And it was just a rupture. And I needed to refine some sense of belonging. And I love my community here in Sausalito, but I just didn't want to be the third wheel. So I just found, like, in conversations with people, and I was seeing more beauty in places, but even more in people than I had seen before. And I think that's because, something in my heart just cracked open with that loss and the grieving that followed. And I was traveling in a new way. It wasn't like just for the adventure, or just for the sights or the landscapes or the food. It was for really the people. And I felt like while I was doing that, I was collecting these stories, which led me to, after, I remember it was a trip to Afghanistan after the Taliban had taken over. I was shit scared to go. I was kind of questioning whether I should be doing that. I even had a conversation with my kids about it. And then I went, and I just had, obviously there's a lot of abuses that have taken place by the Taliban, but I separated that from the actual experience, and it was an amazing experience. And my mind was going full speed. I was learning, I was thinking, I was even connecting, as difficult as that may sound. And I came back from that trip saying, you know what, I got to write a book. And it's not a travel log. It's a story of healing through travel, through meeting people across our world, and finding that, like, if you just have these person-to-person connections, it's something that's very uplifting. And I found it super healing.
I call it you lived your grief. As I set up in the intro about, you say if you swallow your grief, you mute your future joy. You were living your grief. And you use the core word that Nick and I live by, connection. That's what we swear by, is connecting to others. You heal from most things by connecting to others. And you were possibly at times sharing your story. What a gift you gave yourself. And look, honestly, Nicola and I have often mentioned you and gone, where is he now in the world? And, you're living your truth. It's something you're passionate about, you and Jackie, but also for you. I mean, I have to ask a few questions. So one being, Nicholas got, I think you wrote these down, but what's your most heart-beating moment on one of your trips?
When you say that, you mean like that touched me the most, or that was the scariest?
Whichever way you want to take that. Heart-beating moment.
It is funny, like, and I'll tell you in a second, but people tell you, like, they're always looking for your worst story. In other words, like in my journey, I could say maybe I had 1,000 good experiences and 2 bad ones. But when I tell the bad ones, they're like, ooh, ah. And I said, well, you have to balance that against the 1,000 good ones. So, as I was traveling like to these sort of exotic places, I realized I had to go to places that were also considered dangerous, right? My first real sort of perceived dangerous country was Iraq. And that was a special trip for me because my mom was born in Baghdad. And being an Iraqi Jew is a huge part of my identity. It makes me feel like who I am. And so that trip was there's a lot wrapped up in that trip. It's sort of like, what if I have a bad experience? That's just going to shatter sort of my sense of identity. And so I had a guide, and we were traveling through Najaf and Karbala. We went to Babylon, and we'd go through these Iraqi military checkpoints. We stopped at this one checkpoint, and I would always do the Arabic greeting, wassalamu alaikum, and show my passport through the window. But in this case, he asked me to get out of the car and then follow him. My guide was very concerned. And I walked into this office. There's this big man sitting behind a desk smoking a cigarette. And he, with his rifle slung over his shoulder, and he says, in Arabic, sort of, why are you in Iraq? And why do you speak some Arabic? And so what had always been going through my head is like, because I'd get that question, are you Muslim? Why are you in Iraq? Are you Muslim? No, I'm not Muslim. Then sometimes they say, are you Christian? No, I'm not Christian. Well, that only leaves one. And so he went through that same thing. And, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, do I tell him the truth, or do I lie and play it safe? And I was like, I'm an Iraqi Jew. My mother was born here, and I'm coming to visit to see her birthplace. And he stood up, he looked at me, and he said, this is your mother's birthplace. This is your home as well. Welcome to Iraq. He put his hand on the car, walked back to the car. And at that point, I was just like, this is what I need to do.
Barry, that really is truly beautiful. And I was going to say, your mum, I'm blessed that I had met her, Toba, and she hasn't passed away that long ago, to 104. And so isn't that incredible? And did she come as a refugee to
basically they had to leave Iraq in the 20s and 30s. So she came to the States. I think it was in the late 20s.
Yeah. Incredible. And what about what happened in Syria too?
Yeah. So, it was just kind of like, that was a sign for me that I'm on a good path here. And it was really changing the way I see the world, particularly as a Jew, but striking up connections and great experiences with people who in my youth were considered the other side. I was finding myself challenging my own narratives, which is something that is hard to do sometimes, right? It can be painful to take a real look at yourself and what you believe and stuff like that. But I found that very uplifting. And so then it was, okay, I got to do more of these Middle Eastern countries. And I had been trying to get into Syria for a while. It was closed to Americans. And I was even in Beirut for my 62nd birthday, only an hour and a half drive from Damascus, telling my guide kind of like, it's a dream for me to go to Damascus someday. And there I was 1 year later, exactly, in Beirut, driving from Beirut to Damascus with my guide for an 8-day tour of Syria. And Syria, when people ask me, like a lot of people ask, what's your favorite country? And I always say the same two, Italy and Japan. I mean, but what I like is when people say, what's your best experience? Because there's so much wrapped up in experience. There's expectation.
Totally.
There's the unknown qualities of a place, how people are going to treat you. And when they ask me that, I say Syria was my best experience, because the difference between the perception I had by kind of reading the media about Assad, the war criminal, and the refugees and the place being bombed out, versus what I found in terms of the people and the food and the sights and everything, just like I asked myself, do I really know anything at all? Because so much of our perceptions are shaped by what we read. And it's those people to people first impressions that we have that I think really create that sort of honesty about the world that we often lack in the media.
You have to read the book, or of course, like me, listen to it on Audible to hear many a story, which we can't fit it all into this time frame. But there's one in particular when you're hijacked. I'm not going to ask you to talk about that now. You've got to listen to that one. It's brilliant. I've got to ask one quick question because I love this. Where was your best coffee?
Oh, that's the easy one. Yeah.
Because I'm a coffee mental person.
There were two countries that were impossible to get into. One was North Korea, which I'm still hoping to get to soon. I've had like 5 or 6 failed attempts. I was supposed to be there 2 weeks ago. The other was Sudan, because it's a war zone.
Coffee in North Korea? You didn't have it there, no?
No, Sudan. That's the second one.
Sudan. Okay, well, let's get our bucket
what
list.
Was the coffee? Why was it good? Why?
Let me tell you why. Because they do a distinct twist on Java with ginger powder, and it's delicious.
Well, I tried it this morning. I actually put the ginger.
Well, it's probably good for you.
It tasted great.
Tell us your what about your best, because you've got at the start of your book too Barry's best, and you go through some stuff there. What about, and it's a place that we've got on our bucket list as well. I was meant to go there, but COVID's to stop that. Is best spiritual place for you,
Great
Barry?
Question.
Oh, Bhutan for sure, but Sri Lanka comes a close second. But Bhutan, I would say for sure, it's a country.
And what can we really learn? And what can you tell people? Say one with grieving, because I guess it's all a personal thing, but also learning about all us. We're all human beings sharing planet Earth, scattered all over the place. What have you learned? So what can you share with us, Barry, really from the heart, about connection and what we can learn through how similar we are or how different we are?
Yeah. I mean, I have this like little saying where loss broke me, courage helped me to move forward, but it was ultimately like connecting with people that healed me. And, when you look at the disease of depression, it's really a disease of not feeling belonging and not feeling connection. And the truth is like, we can find connection in so many places. We don't have to travel to find connection, but I didn't really realize that. But now even in my own community, I make that extra effort with the waiter or with the person I meet on the street to ask that extra question, to really, people just want to be understood. They want to be seen. We all do. And it just when you make that little extra effort, it opens up, I don't know, it's like an energy field is the only way I can describe it. You can have two completely different experiences with somebody by just asking that one extra question or really caring.
As long as they're not on this, Barry, it's called a mobile phone. Because even at airports, I'm rude. I will go, hi, and I'll put my face in front of people. And I'll go, hi. And you know what? We end up having the most fabulous conversation. Well, I think we do. So these are the danger, Yeah. And lastly, one quick, because we are run out of time, quick tip for travel. One quick tip you could share with us for travel.
You're asking Barry, who's been to 190, nearly 3 countries.
Give me one good, juicy tip.
Well, I just think like anybody who likes to travel, I would challenge them to stretch your comfort zone a little bit. And I think you'll find a whole new like, I guess, level of depth. It definitely happened for me. You don't have to travel to Afghanistan to have it, but I just think like if you just push your comfort zone a little bit, I think it'll open up a whole new world of expansiveness.
I love that.
I love that. You know what? So everything is sort of it's through Barry, through connection and what you've done, and with this book, it's incredible. And just now, with this book, I would just want to touch on the Caravan to Class, because you're saying this book also, to buy it, proceeds go to can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. 100% of the proceeds from my book, Belonging to the World, go to support additional scholarships for women in West Africa in Jackie's name. It's called Bourse Jackie, the Jackie Scholarship.
Yeah.
So it's a great present for everybody to get. This is a book for whether you're an adventure traveler, whether you're, and of all ages, it's just so good. And you know what? It's a book of hope. And as I was saying, when I met Barry, quite a few years ago, probably only about 2 years into the passing of Jackie. And I got to say now, it's lovely sort of seeing you and also taking those steps. And I believe you've got a girlfriend, which is always, I can't imagine also, with grief, it would be hard sometimes. I can't imagine what that's like. When we've even gone through divorces and you kind of restart again, but through that.
Full circle.
How's that for you? But is there another coincidence with her birthday?
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, when we were just friends when we first started out, because I was traveling a lot, we'd just have coffee or something. And I remember on the first coffee, she is like, yeah, it's my birthday, like in a week. I go, oh, when?
Stop.
She goes, October 22nd. October 22nd. So.
No, not the same date. So everyone listening is Jackie.
Yes. Yeah. But we're also saying that from the sunflowers, from no such thing as coincidence, and I think that's in life. That's sort of like with that.
You deserve it.
So when you go, are there signs? We've had, like David the medium on, and who connects with spirit, and I think you're connecting every day, and those messages are around you, and there's so much hope. But I can highly encourage for everybody to get this book.
Oh, it's.
I reread it again. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic.
And as you said, Nicola, it's not just about traveling. Everywhere he goes, there's this fascinating story. That's why I binged it. I've never binged a book ever on Audible. Didn't I say?
I've actually finished
it. Because the stories you just got me in. And every single country, I was like, oh my God, I want to get on a plane.
Full of heart and hope. But as they say, 193 countries, 500 people on planet Earth have gone there. So more people have been to outer space than gone to every country. So I think
well done.
What's next? Is there rumours of a movie?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Well, Barry, another thing we're
going to start
didn't mention too is also he's got a beautiful vineyard and olives, and I know you sold some of your grapes to Francis Ford Coppola. So I think it's destined that it'll be a film, and I was just wondering whether Barry plays himself. Or who would you like to get to play Barry Hoffner?
From your mouth to Francis's ears.
I might pop over, actually. I've got family over in Sausalito. I might pop over and have a little glass of wine with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, I will. I actually will.
Yes, it's beautiful.
That's great. No, you know what? I mean, I'm gonna ride this as long as I can. And then I'm off to some other project. I don't know what that's going to be yet. I'm not worried about it, but I've had a great journey. When I say, like, some people write a book, it's the end of a big writing project for them. For me, like, releasing this book is the end of a big chapter in my life, a chapter of love, loss, and then healing through travel. And we'll see what the next chapter unfolds. I'm open to it, just like we started our conversation with. And I'll ride this until I'm ready to figure out what that next chapter is.
I'm excited.
Well, love to you boys, Benjamin and Daniel, and also, to all the buddies, Margot, and who's in San Francisco. There's a whole crew there who, unfortunately, I've met, which is just fantastic. So, Barry, any lasting words or anything that you could give our listeners, our Aussies, just from what takeaway from your book?
Yeah, I mean, I do think, like, at a time of incredible divisiveness, I don't follow as much what's going on in Australia, but I know what's happening in the States and across the world. I just think, like, there has to be a counter movement of people who are open to our magnificent world and don't let the headlines and our political leaders sort of divorce us from the reality that people are people. And honestly, like if we could just have those person to person connections and contacts, we would realize that there's so much there that can like create much more expansiveness in our life than we get from the daily news cycle. So I guess just like
I think
it's so beautiful hearing that, Barry.
People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. It's Barb.
Oh, hey,
Barbie
Babs.
Streisand.
You know what?
And it's true.
I loved you singing that. I'll sing Barry at any chance. She'll drop a song. You know, like I have
a
to stop
microphone
her,
in my
but
handbag.
that was absolutely so beautiful with that. So I think on that note, then we're going to ask you some of our signature questions.
Just two quickies. This is a crazy
Buckle
question
up,
to ask
Barry.
you right now. But what makes you happy, Barry?
Well, right now, honestly, talking to you two.
That's very present. Yeah, totally.
I love the Oz. I love hearing the accent, and I love your energy.
I love American accents.
I love how the connection between you two. It's just so life affirming to have friends like that.
Hey, thank you.
We've been at the retreat together, haven't we?
We have. You know, we are lucky as we sort of share a back fence and buddies of 40 years, and we all had to meet up, in Phuket, and it is all about connection. But this is a question. Gosh, I don't know where this is going to go, but if you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be and why, past or present, Barry?
Well, I mean, for me, it's unrealistic, but easy one would be Marcus Aurelius, late emperor of Rome, who wrote the book Meditations, which was my Bible while I was in deep grief. And it's just an incredible story of somebody who was such an amazing writer, but he was just taking notes for himself on reflecting on him and his life and how to live with dignity and stuff like that. And, in this day and age where we've lost so much foundation for guidance, particularly for a lot of young men, to see somebody who was it was just so important for him to be a good person and do the right thing, even in the position he had. He's, for me, I guess my hero, I would say.
Barry, can you please share? I was actually going to read it out. The quote, I'd rather you say it, that you've got in your book from him, that the one that starts off, "It is not death that man should fear."
Yeah, it's never. I think I don't know.
But he should. But he should fear.
He should fear not living or something like that.
Yeah, not living to be good. I just think that is just so beautiful. That
Barry,
quote. We've just loved it so much. Like it's.
And you're looking great. Got a nice tan.
You're looking so good, and we're so thrilled. And I know that we're going to encourage everyone to get a book, and I know that also they can leave a review, which certainly helps you. I mean, you're already number one, so to keep on staying there. Well, we like our reviews as well, Barry. So we're also on YouTube, so you can tune in and watch this, which is wonderful. And so we like our ratings review. Keep them coming, which is really good. And now Di has her own rating system.
Okay,
so
it's usually out of 5. But with Barry,
what's it out of 5? How many?
For Barry, it's going to be 193 out of 5.
I love that. That's the best rating I've had so far.
That's us Aussies.
Go, Barry. Well, thank you for coming on, and thanks for sharing the most magnificent story. And there's more to share later, because knowing you, there'll be another 1,000.
And we'll see you somewhere on planet Earth, which is really
really
exciting.
So.
Yeah, we will.
Absolutely.
Miss
you guys.
Looking forward to that.
Care.
Yeah. Ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening, everybody.